Hi, Christopher.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. My name's Betsy. I'm
How are you, Betsy?
good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Do you go by Chris or Christopher?
Christopher, yes.
Okay, Christopher. Wonderful.
We
Oh,
match.
wow.
Steven, we match.
Represent.
I don't know if you got this bad boy, though.
No, I don't have any pens. I've been at a celebration recently to get any. But thank you so much. Oh, wow. I'm so glad we're all finally here. And thank you again, Betsy, for taking over for Aowen tonight.
Of course. Yeah.
Again, Aowen wishes she could be here. We send, our regards to her. Hope she gets well. But we hope to have a good time tonight, and nerd out a little bit.
Hey, by the way, this is recording, so I'm going to say hi to Erwin. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for coordinating everything. You're awesome. High five. Get better soon.
Yeah, she really appreciates that. And like I was saying, do you like my ship here? Do you appreciate my bridge?
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's Sith colors you're wearing or if that's, Jedi, but...
But I got representation here. So I'm walking a thin line. I'm sneaking onto this ship, and they don't know I'm here. So we're going to sabotage the place.
That's right. Hey, I know one thing or two about being a double agent or a spy undercover.
This is the Resistance spy. I created a slideshow that I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go ahead and run through that. And then, if we have any questions about it afterwards, we can look up any other details you want to talk about. But, predominantly, this is going to reveal video, for you. I understand you might have checked out a couple of things a little bit earlier on, but hopefully not too much. So hopefully there's still some surprises in there for you.
Again, I told Betsy earlier, but thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
So everybody can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just start with, the fact that we have this pop-up challenge here. There we go. Let's just look at, Christopher's profile here really quick. He is a notable connection now. You have some connections built into the system. We have some basic information from you on your biography, so people can see this. And actually what we might be looking at is a more private version. So I'm just going to click over to that public view here real quick. This is what people will actually see when they look at your profile. So they will not be able to see any other personal information. But this is basically what they're going to see. And then the parents should be privatized. The siblings, children, if they were available, would also be privatized as living people. So, we want to indicate that privacy is a serious thing, that we want to protect that information, from other people if they're not notables. In your situation, you're a notable, so a little bit more is presented here. And, because of that, you're also a featured person on the wiki. We're going to go right into that. The WikiTree Pop-Up Challenge. It was Star Wars during May 5th and May 8th, featuring you, Christopher Sean. So let's talk about that. You're here on the main page that week after Star Wars week. And you're right above the Pope and Lance Redditt and a whole bunch of other notables that were on that page that week. You can see that there's a member of the week. We like focusing on a certain person that leads a project or does something very good for the wiki. The person before that was indicated as well here, Fiona McMichael, Allison Breton. So, we're all related to one another effectively through our global world tree. So, even though that you might be a notable, we treat everybody as, a very important person on the site because, even a person that may not be considered notable by those means is still worthy of being on the front page, and just, in great company here on that first week and even into that second week when you get kicked down by the king.
The king, of course.
So now you're sitting in between King Charles III and Pope John Paul II.
Rest in peace, Lance Redditt. Man, he's amazing.
Right. Just because, we want to focus on those people that, made us laugh, made us cry, and all of those people that affected our lives one way or another. And again, another member of the week, it changes now. Ian McArthur, was the focus on that week. And it's since changed. If you look now, I think Betsy Coe is either the current member of the week or just passed.
Yeah.
Let's go, Betsy.
Yeah,
right.
Betsy's getting some recognition as well here. So we move on. I wanted to indicate, because you were an example profile of the week, you're actually part of this category now with all these other esteemed names, including, look, Carrie Fisher's on that list, Peter Mayhew, Mickey Mantle, various people, Napoleon Bonaparte's on here, Charles Messier, and then, you're right here at the bottom of that F category. Because I understand that, Christopher Sean is a actor name that you've chosen, but you do have a different last name, so that plays into your actual genealogy here. So that's why you're categorized by F and not by S in this case.
After that, my full name is Christopher Sean Friel.
Right. It's your middle
That's
name. So
my middle, yeah. So you guys did it right.
but it's still a cool name, And
Thanks,
in this
bud.
case, we're using the parentheses to indicate that your actual name at birth was Friel. So that's why it's in parentheses.
Smart, and thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then let's go right into your tree here. So I did try to cover up those more sensitive parts, little clouds here. The other ones I can focus on, have deceased and, are no longer with us. So we can actively talk about them as deceased profiles. They're accessible to the rest of the wiki here. So, looking at your grandparents, James Friel, Sophia Gardner, or actually those are your great grandparents on that side. The other grandparent, Mary Gardner, which is not related to Sophia Gardner, since you have two Gardner lines. That was interesting to differentiate between those two. And she's from Ohio, and Oregon. And then, of course, your Japanese lines here on your mom's side. And you'll notice that they're actually written in Japanese because we try to retain the original language in which those names came from. So the place names, the actual names themselves. And one of our editors, Thomas, was responsible for doing a lot of that Japanese translation on those profiles.
Very cool.
If we zoom out a little bit, you will see that this was a little bit after it started. And I started working on some of the lines on the German lines. I wanted to really branch those out. So we did connect you into the tree at one of those German lines because there were some profiles that did already exist in our wiki. So you've officially became part of the world tree when you connected into those lines, which meant that you were then searchable. You were actually followable in terms of we could see how many degrees you were away from any given person on the connected world tree at that point.
Like Kevin Bacon, maybe.
Like Kevin Bacon. In fact, Kevin Bacon is an indicator profile. On our connections page, he's used right next to Queen Elizabeth II, and you can see exactly how many degrees you're away from him at any given time over the course of history, because it'll change. It actually might get smaller over time as we make more and more connections to people on the tree. So then after the challenge ended, we added a little bit more definition to that side of the tree.
Look at that. Wow.
Unfortunately, the Japanese side, we weren't really able to break because, we needed the Kaseki, I think, to really be able to understand where the family was coming from. So I know that we've talked about that, and I know that we're working on it. Thomas also would love to work with you on that as well and continue that research. So, unfortunately, for the purposes of the challenge, which is only a 3-day challenge, it's still pretty amazing that we were able to expand as much as we did.
Wow.
And I will be focusing on those predominantly, but I did want to indicate that we did try to extend the Japanese lines as much as we could.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that's what you're also most interested in as well, because you do have a strong appreciation of the Asian American culture and the arts. I know I see a lot of your things on Instagram representing that and supporting that. So we did try our best.
It's
but yeah, even then,
bad.
I know even then there's still a lot of expansion. We didn't really push too far on the Irish lines. It was really like the German lines, and then eventually branching into British lines. So once we hit England, that's where things really get crazy. That's where they really will expand here, and we'll talk about that shortly. So again, going back to your Japanese ancestry here, like I said, it was very difficult to break. We really need to figure out the whole Koseki situation. Once we do that, that might be able to help us branch into older generations of those ancestors. But I was able to find out at least about Akahisa Aoki, or Aoki Akahisa, because I know the name is reversed in Japanese. He was actually nominated to become an honorary citizen of the town of Cheongju in South Korea in 1997. He was partially responsible for establishing that as a sister city with Yugawara in Japan, where he was the representative there. And then when he passed away, his wife and the rest of the family actually donated 100,000 yen to the town's development fund. So we found that in the Japanese record, and we also saw that one of the records was in Korean when we saw the thing with Cheongju. So we had 2 translations we had to do in that case. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we were able to pull up on that so far. But again, this is just the beginning. You know, you're just starting to discover this information. We can find out more things in the future with more attention, you know, focused onto that.
This is so cool. My mom told me about that. I never actually, I mean, she told me about it, but I never really knew much about it. So I'm excited to get a hold of the Koseki. Sadly, my aunt wasn't participating. My mom won't, but I will
I understand.
send a personal email.
Yeah, I mean, we do what we can. If you have to go hunt for it yourself, you know, so be it, right?
Will.
You know, one way or another, I feel like you're passionate enough that you want to be able to discover this. So.
And I can relate to this a little bit because I'm Taiwanese on my father's side. So yeah. So my maternal genealogy research is much more straightforward. You know, it's a language barrier and it's many more hurdles on my dad's side. But it can be
So there
done.
you go. You guys have a relationship just in that alone. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna move on to other lines here then. The ones that we did really start to branch out. You know, the Friels, the Gardners, the Hunts, the Chases. Maybe you've heard of some of these names, maybe you haven't. Eventually they branch off even further into the Kincoins, the Kleiners, the Smiths, and the Tabors. Interesting thing about, let's see here if there's additional information on this. Yeah, so there's a couple of people I wanted to focus on in there. Your great-grandmother, Sophie Friel, which was formerly known as Weingartner. You know, they did change their name to Gardner when they became Americans. She was actually a supervisor at General Electric. So that was something we found. I think that was in a census record. Also, one of John William Hunt's 3 wives, so he was married 3 times, was Swedish. And that was Hilda Carolyn Hägglund.
Hilda, well, interesting.
Yeah, so you don't have a Swedish line directly, but there's some Swedish people in your family. And then there was a tragic situation. One of the Friel kids was killed at a young age by another neighbor kid. So this was pretty wild when we came across this story. This is your great-grand-uncle William or Willie Friel. He was born in 1898 and he passed away in 1911 on August 15th because his friend shot him when they were playing. They're basically playing not cops and robbers, but a Wild West game of some kind. And basically, Willie didn't throw his hands up when the other kid asked him to, and the other kid killed him. So, you know, he knew the gun was loaded. He said it went off accidentally. The other kid, known as Clifford Luke, served some time in juvenile court, and you know, eventually he ended up actually joining the military. So the weird thing about it is, even though he murdered a kid as a kid, he went into the military in World War I and was actually awarded the Distinguished Service Cross by the President of the United States at that time. So he had done some heroic action and was known as a hero afterwards. So I just thought that was interesting in itself. And I actually created a profile for Clifford just to indicate that story. So, you know, it's very unfortunate that, you know, your actual relative, you know, ended up in that situation. But these are things you're going to find. Like, that's when you start digging into genealogy, there are going to be things that you do not want to know or wish you never had heard of. So it is the double-edged sword of doing the genealogical experiment, you know, and learning about this information.
You know, I think the cool thing about that is, maybe if that never happened, and you know, him sadly killing another child, he may never wanted to do more with his life, and he maybe and never received the Distinguished Service Cross by the president. So, in that sad action, led to something amazing, and I'd like to believe that in an optimistic standpoint. But
it's kind of like a butterfly effect, right? Absolutely,
pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, bad things could still lead to good things if you look at it from that approach. Additionally, when I looked into the John William Hunt line, I found, you know, connections here to the Argabrites, and eventually they branch off into the Whiteheads and the Hefners. And also Eliza Smith, she branches off into the Williams. So, you know, these are a little more common names. They're really hard to figure out those connections because Smith and Williams obviously are common names. Argabright and Whitehead and Hefner are not. Interesting thing I found about Elizabeth Hefner is that she was actually married to William Argabright. Now, this image isn't really up to date. I think either we still need to create the profile or it was just taken at an earlier time. But she actually married him at age 14. And because she was underage, this required a marriage bond certificate between the groom, William Argabright, and her father, Henry Michael Hefner. And because of that document, it confirmed her parentage. And interestingly enough, we found a third cousin that relates to you through this line. And I wonder if you can figure out who that might be.
Well, I'm guessing Hugh Hefner?
You would be correct.
Wow.
You are
Hugh
actually
Hefner
third cousins.
Our third cousins.
You're third cousins 3 times removed with the Hef.
To the Playboy guy? Hugh
To the
Hefner?
Playboy guy. And also to his children as well. So his notable children who ran the company, after his time at the company itself. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the interesting things that we found about that.
Wow.
And that is considered your closest notable cousin. So he is the closest one, within here, third cousins. Like, I know my third cousin. Like, she lives in Milwaukee with me.
Wow.
So to think about the relationship of that's pretty close, because you're only going back 4 generations for him, and like maybe 6 or 7 generations for you, to that shared common ancestor, Henry Michael Hefner. So then when it goes back forward again, they were in the Chicago area. So because the Hefners were in the Midwest, they kind of didn't go that far. And then when you come back forward again, that's where they lined up. So yeah, I mean, that's one of them. You'll find out that this list is going to start getting big because of certain connections into the family tree. We found more and more relationships to other notable people, and effectively all of us, really. So we go back to the Irish lines here. You'll see that they stop abruptly. These are what's called brick walls. So a brick wall is a wall that you cannot get through because there's a lack of evidence, a lack of information about it. Usually it's, in this case, they've gone to a different country. We don't know exactly where they're from in that country. So for James Friel, let me move something around here. James Friel and Eleanor O'Hara, we just have Ireland, right? So until we get somebody to help out with more Irish information, we might be kind of stuck on those for right now. Also, we have like relative dates. Go ahead.
I could say I was told that the Friel lineage, when they came from Ireland to America, the Irish were treated worse than slaves. This is what I'm told. And they dropped the O from Friel. It was O'Friel.
Oh,
and
wow.
then they had to change their name to make it seem more German, even though they were Irish. So it was O'Friel, and now it's just listed as Friel, which may
really important to know. Yeah, I mean, if that's the key to breaking the brick wall, then we should be looking for Friels once we're over in Ireland. Because I can see that Eleanor, they had O'Hara. And I don't know if they changed it to just simply Hara when they came to the United States. It's certainly a possibility. And same thing for the Kilcoynes. Now, we actually have information on the Kilcoynes and the Kirbys. They came from County Mayo. So we got Castlebar as a place in County Mayo that you can look up, and you can see that that's your actual genetic roots for the Irish line, at least.
Wow. County Mayo, Ireland.
Yeah, I think that's Northern part of Ireland itself, like to the west of Northern Ireland.
Well, Stephen, you and I, we're going on an adventure.
Oh,
to County Mayo, Ireland.
I want to go to Skellig Michael first. I want to go to the south of the country. What is that, County Cork?
Wow.
Where Luke Skywalker was hanging out on that island.
Oh, man, it's beautiful, yeah.
I would love to do that.
Milk.
Yes, go to a thalasiren, just get the blue milk right off the thalasiren. Betsy has no idea what we're talking about.
Well, I have some Irish lines, but they're County Cavan.
Oh, okay.
Wow, interesting.
But yes, no, I'm definitely way behind you two in terms of Star Wars lore. For sure, for sure.
I mean, we're only mild nerds in this universe. And so, yeah, I mean, that's great. At least we have a place name on some of those. So that might be much more approachable for breaking through on those brick walls. So there's, again, there's hope. There's always hope, like Leia said. Let's see. And if I move down, is there something that popped up here? My screen is not working. Let's go back a step. Okay, there we go. Also the German lines. So, Sophia Weingartner split off into, Ernst Weingartner, Konstantin Weingartner, Gianofina. You start getting into places in Baden and Württemberg. They actually were separate duchies back then that have since combined into Baden-Württemberg, Germany. I have one of our colleagues, Florian, is actually in Baden-Württemberg, so he knows all about these place names down here. And you're talking about places like Emmendingen, Ockenheim, you go down to Benzingen, and those are all places that still have names today. They may have changed slightly, but effectively they're still in the same places they were back in the 1800s, 1700s. Before that, you can add additional names like Bueller. You got again the Kleiners, the Cooks, the Mauers, and the Dreyers. So we found a couple more surnames with that. And I'd love to continue working on these just because I focus on German genealogy myself. So I have a lot of German genealogy myself.
We might be related.
We might be related. At this point, we probably are related. We just don't know how.
Yeah.
But I didn't find a relationship yet. I didn't find an actual cousin relationship. I think we're just a certain degree apart through marriage. But what I was excited to find is that we share Wisconsin County, because your ancestors also came from Wisconsin as well as my ancestors. And if you look at Edith Del Tapor here at the bottom, she came from a place called Valton, which is an unincorporated area in the town of Woodland in far western Sauk County, Wisconsin. And Sauk County is a page that I actually manage on WikiTree.
Wow.
So I know all about this place. I've been in this county researching my own dead ancestors in various cemeteries there.
So we are probably neighbors.
It's very possible the Tabors could have been neighbors with some of my people.
Or we went to the same elementary school and your ancestors poured sand on my ancestor's head. So now I have to get revenge. I have to come after you.
Sand, it gets everywhere and it's irritating, and I
still
hate
feel it. Actually, just thinking about it now, it's weird. It's like genetic sand on me.
But yeah, I was super excited, and seeing even Wyowega in Waupaca County, Wisconsin, Dorchester in Clark County, Wisconsin, like you have a lot of Wisconsin people when you go down that Hunt line. That was the other thing too, is that the Hunts actually adopted the Gardners. Like the daughter Gardner was born a Gardner, but then her father was actually a Hunt. Oh, wait a minute, what happened? Oh wait, she was a Hunt by birth, but she took on the name Gardner from another father. So there's a whole other line in there that's a Gardner line, but it's not a blood related line. We were still like expanding on that a little bit. It's just it's harder to see because there isn't like a true connection between those two people.
Wow.
So yeah, there actually was an adoption in that part of the family. But if we follow the bloodline, this should be your bloodline through the Hunts.
It's crazy. I mean, it's going all the way back to the 1800s, almost 1700s. That's incredible.
I mean, we're getting out there. We're going farther back in time here. We're getting into your DeLorean because we're going to 88 miles an hour now. We're going to follow the Hortons here just for a second. So look at Lucy Arabelle Horton in the corner. If I connect her to another distant ancestor, as soon as it works.
I swear, if you say the Grinch, I swear.
Not quite. Here's what happened. So I put down really quickly that they actually came from New York, and Lucy came from Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, which is the same place that Eowyn's ancestors, one of the ancestors, came from. So maybe you and Eowyn, their ancestors were neighbors.
Makes sense. Is why Eowyn can't make it. It's a family gathering tonight. She's just like, don't want to be there. I get it.
Yeah. We'll say that's the reason.
I really hope she gets better. Get better soon, anyway. Sorry.
when you
And, I
start
mean,
looking at
oh yeah.
I was just going to say, sometimes we're looking at a census and you're looking at your family and then your eyes drift above maybe a couple lines and you realize, oh, wait, the people 2 houses down are either related or at a later point married into the family. I mean, it was just, they were small.
Usually they're in the household next to each other. And
Mhm.
you'll find that those families tend to congregate, like, especially with farmland, if they have big farmland, they'll be adjoining each other.
Yeah.
And I actually had extra little notes there indicating, Lower Canada is where the Tabors actually came from before they were in New York. So now we're starting to push into another country. And then the Hortons actually came out of New York as well. So they came out of Oswego. So there's your New York connections, getting towards the beginning of the country here. And now I should be able to click on the next screen. That's going to lead into the Hortons here real quick. So didn't want to focus too much on this because it gets pretty expansive. We didn't even do much of this research for the challenge. A lot of this was already in place on WikiTree. So once we connected to these people, this is what was already established in the last 15 years of research.
Wow.
So funny enough, there's a deacon called Ezra. And I found it hilarious that you had a direct ancestor that was also the name of a Star Wars character like Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
Even more funny was you actually have Bridger ancestors.
Wow.
So you have both Ezra and Bridgers in your family. You
And I can
rebel,
say that,
you
Horton-
rebel scum.
yeah, right. In Days of Our Lives, there's the Horton family
What?
tree line. Yeah, that's one of the main steeples of the show, the Horton family.
Yeah, I haven't watched soaps, but that's funny to say that was the focus of theirs, and you were in that show too.
Wow, it's interesting.
Yeah. Ezra, he practiced in Tolan County, Connecticut, at the very beginning of our country's founding. So we're pushing into Connecticut colony here, and then eventually Connecticut state. Also, if you notice at the very top right-hand corner of the screen, Barnabas Horton was one of his ancestors. And that guy was actually part of the Great Puritan Migration. So now we're hitting the line where the Puritans migrated to America. And then you branch out, you're going to see that they came from Britain, of course. England is where these people originated from. And this is what I like to refer to as the Great American Bottleneck, because when everybody was bottlenecking up in northeastern England, or New England, they all intermarried into one another. There's a lot of pedigree collapse, a lot of endogamy that happens. So you'll find that a lot of people that are related in America tie back to these people that came across the boat and were all in, from Plymouth or in Massachusetts at a certain time.
Wow.
Stephen, which were the profiles of Christopher's that connected him into the big tree?
Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was one of the German lines initially that connected him to the tree. Maybe, but definitely, no, I think it was the Horton line, because there was a lot of development on these lines beforehand. If I go back, that might have been it. The Tabors connecting into the Hortons might have been the connection I was looking for, because there was so much development of those people already.
Right.
So thanks to Days of Our Lives for connecting them into the tree. So moving along here, soon there's nothing else on my screen for that. I did find some military profiles real quick, including Elias Davison Horton. He served in the American Civil War with Company I in the 1st Wisconsin Cavalry. So a lot of these are Wisconsin-based again. He was present and wounded at the Battle of Burnt Church, and I still have no idea where that is. I tried to find it, and I don't know where the Battle of Burnt Church is. So if anybody out there knows what this battle is or what state it was in, please let us know. We would love to update that. And he was discharged due to wounds at the end of the war, April 15th, 1865. So he basically went all the way to the end of the war and was discharged of his wounds there as it ended. Another thing funny about that cavalry is that there was another notable person named Richard Handy Chittenden who served at Company E. So it was a different company of the 1st Wisconsin Cavalry. And this was a guy who in 1889 actually discovered that the surface of the Earth and the Moon are proportional to their sidereal periods. And having been appointed the U.S. Volunteer Observer, he first noted and reported the oscillation of the magnetic needle on the approach of a cyclone. And he just so happens to be my 6th cousin 6 times removed. So I just discovered that because I have a little thing on my computer screen that automatically tells me if somebody is a cousin of mine or not. It's part of the WikiTree browser extension.
So he's so this is where we might be partially related, you and I?
Well, these two guys aren't related to one another. They served on the same military, not company, but the cavalry.
Copy.
Yeah, because you can see the relationship in the categories. If you actually put these people into their respective categories, like military categories, you can click on anybody else that was in that military category, and then you can read up on them. So, rabbit holes can happen really quick because of that.
Absolutely.
And I also found out William Ray Tabor, about 1892 to about 1859, served in the Wisconsin National Guard, and then he served in World War I in a musical capacity. I'm not really sure about the specifics of that, but he may have played some kind of instrument when he was in the World War. And speaking of music, there was another musical profile, Nelson Garner Tabor, 1859-1836, who was a music instructor, a salesman, and a band musician. He had 6 children, and he played in the band into his 70s. And it was really interesting how that musical legacy wove into his kids' lives. One of his daughters married a minister, and then she became a minister. And I think there's a relationship there between, music and religion in that case. So she may have been very inspired by her father, in what she ended up doing later in life.
Wow.
Yeah. So Thomas Kaline was great enough to give us a map. He took a lot of these lines and he put them on a map, and the colors indicate the different surnames. So you'll see that the Friels are showing up in their respective areas, and he actually identified County Donegal as well. So that might have been a little bit later, I think, after we had some more definition on the profiles. So you can see by Sligo there to the west of Northern Ireland, and again, north of Galway. That seems to be where your people are originating. Very cool territory up there. I'd love to visit that, even though I'm not related to those people. The Gardner line, let's see, those were in yellow. I don't know if this is covering up the screen, but I'm moving our faces over.
No, we can see it. Great.
Okay, so you can see they're kind of focused around Stuttgart there, south of Mannheim. My ancestors are right around the Mannheim area on my mom's side, so that's where my Southern Germans come from. But these are pretty much touching different spots in what we would now call Baden and Württemberg, which is centered around Stuttgart and across from Strasbourg, France, and getting down towards Switzerland here. So those are the places that they ended up in. The hunts, now you see that we're starting to spread out really far here with all the different people that connected into those lines. So we're actually looking at the Netherlands. There's Dutch genealogy here. We're looking at northern Germany near Denmark. We're looking again at the southern part of Germany, and we're looking at a location in France. And then the remainder of these showed up in the United Kingdom, mostly in England, and maybe a little bit in Wales. We're pretty close to that. And then like a little drop over here over by Limerick, Ireland. And if I click on the next one, which kind of zooms out, you'll see that there's some more relationships. Of course, there is your Japanese lines that focus on Yugawara and also Shimoda. So Shimoda is another city to the southwest of Yugawara, I believe. That's actually right on the peninsula at the very end.
There's a song that goes to Shimoda. I don't know if you know it.
No, I don't know about that.
It goes, my Shimoda. No, you don't know. Maybe no. I don't know.
Was that a Weird Al parody? I don't remember him doing that version.
There's not really a song. I was just having a good time. That's really cool.
I totally am rolling with this. It's in my headcanon now. But yeah, I mean, you can also see that there's additional ones. The chase lines here are the orange lines. So you had Quebec showing up, various other places that were in Britain, Southwold, Whitechapel, Mouseley. And if I go back to the other map, you can see that that's where they're placing there. And around London, around Birmingham. So a lot of those older lines. So we really want to showcase is you really have worldwide distribution of genetics here. You have Europe, you got America, you got Canada, and you certainly have Japan. We have to find out what else is out there.
If you can email me that Koseki link, I'll fill it out. I'll see what I can do. If not tonight, I get the whole Memorial Day weekend. We just got back.
Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. I don't want to take that away from you.
No, we're not. We honestly, we spent the whole week in Arizona. We got this beautiful place for the kids to celebrate. My youngest is 8th grade promotion
Oh.
into high school. So
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm taking it easy, relaxing the rest of the weekend, which will give me plenty of time to jump in and do that. I'm
Okay.
highly intrigued.
Outstanding. I will try to get that info as soon as possible to you.
This is fun. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
I know. And I think I want to push along here, because there's still some more things to talk about, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because of this worldwide distribution, now you'll find that there are certain connections that we can make, including cousins of Princess Leia Organa herself.
And it's a blood relation.
And this is a true blood relation because this whole thing is in green. If there was a marriage, you'd see one of these in yellow, which is an alternative. It's jumping over to a marriage line. But there is no marriage line. This is going all the way back to Hans Siebert and Elsa Jung. These are like, one of these is the 11th great grandparent that you guys share. I believe it's Hans Siebert. And if you follow all the way back through Debbie Reynolds, which was her mother, it goes to Carrie.
Wow.
And in this case, it goes through the Hefners and the Argabrites and the Hunts and gets back to you.
So I'm 12th cousins with Carrie Fisher,
Yes.
and I'm 3rd cousins with Mr. Hefner.
Yeah. So we're starting to tack them on. And I
And
mean,
I'm sandbox enemies with Stephen.
I suppose, right? I mean, but everybody here, regardless of their background or their beliefs, I mean, we're all interconnected to one another at the end of the day. Just like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, we are all connected.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is very fun.
By the way, if you would like to know, you're also cousins with Luke Skywalker.
Interesting.
A little bit farther, but still a blood relationship, assuming that some of this genetic material or some of this information is accurate. Now, in this case, your 24th cousins, what is this, 3 times removed, via the Prince of Gwynedd, Lilwyn ap Arweth. Now, this guy is known as Lilwyn the Great. He lived from 1173 to 1240. When you start getting into historical genealogy like this in the medieval time period, it is much more harder to verify that. So a lot of this would still need to be, you want to go approach this with a grain of salt, right? However, considering that, yeah, go ahead.
We can make a couple calls to the Alien the Great. Just, it's not too hard. Send an email, maybe.
I'm sure that little one will pick up. But, I mean, the thing is, when you start getting into this time period as well, everybody is kind of already related to one another through multiple marriages, marrying into one another. Again, a lot of endogamy. So you're running into those royal lines, you're running into those non-royal lines. And it's some likelihood, like, or Betsy was telling me beforehand, at some point you have so many ancestors that are like your 12th great grandparents or 24th great grandparents that it's almost impossible to not, just because of like how many there are.
Well, it's because it spans exponentially. So.
Right. And there was only so many people on the planet back then too. I mean, the population was 1 billion 100 years ago. We've actually increased by 7 billion in like the last century. So during this time period, there was only even a fraction of just the billion. So yeah, I mean, there's relationship. You are cousins with both Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, although the relationship to Mark Hamill was a lot more distant until we find a closer connection. So we expand one of those Irish lines or German lines or even English lines, or who knows, maybe even the Japanese lines, we might find a closer connection to them.
It's awesome. Sorry, I'm just kind of speechless.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know how you're going to react to this, but I imagine it's going to be positive.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, my initial thought was, so Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher kissed on screen and were brother and sister and are actually related.
Through you.
Now I want to kiss them, like both of them. I'm kidding. No, this is
one of them you can't really access. The other one you might be able to. I don't know how your connections are with other Star Wars actors.
Yeah, but
the living ones are definitely much more accessible.
It's really awesome. This is so cool. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, and when I looked at all the other Star Wars people that were featured that week. That's how I figured that this went out the fastest. It was because when you were featured, the other ones were also featured. And so we could instantaneously click on those through your profile and figure out what the degrees were, but I could also see what the relationship was. So the only ones so far that I know of are, in this case, Mark and Carrie. The other ones, we didn't find that genetic relationship, but you're still like not that far away from them through like marriage.
So Luke and Leia, huh?
Yeah, Luke and Leia. And on that note, we continue with some of the notable cousins. I just looked into the presence category. And because of that relationship that you have with the British background, the English profiles, you actually connect to 33 of the 46 American presidents. And the closest one to you is a fairly recent one. Barack Obama is actually your 8th cousin.
That's insane. That's awesome. I love Barack Obama.
Yeah, and because again he had those two different directions, his African ancestry on one side, his mother's ancestry was Caucasian. I'm assuming it's going through the Caucasian side in this direction to connect.
Could be the Japanese. Could be the Japanese.
I mean, I don't think we have enough of the Japanese developed yet, but again, this is what's so amazing is that you really could connect through any different direction. If you go back far enough and find those connections, you never know. But I'm just making an assumption with this. I believe it's because of our Great American bottleneck and so forth. The German lines were lovely as well. And also, these are the other presidents that you're connected to as well. And it shows generations as an indicator of like how far off you are from them.
Quick question. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah, FDR.
FDR. That's awesome. And George Bush. John Quincy Adams. Are you kidding? This is amazing.
A lot of these share the same common ancestors. When I do a lot of these cousin relationships, I find a lot of the same people repeating as the shared common ancestors. So it may be like one or two people in particular that have created a lot of these scenarios that have allowed us to make those connections.
So Barack is the closest notable cousin.
Yeah, he is actually the closest one ahead of Benjamin Harrison and Ulysses Grant.
Well, I guess then, Betsy, Stephen, we're starting a presidential campaign. I'm putting in my vote right now, right this moment.
Time is now.
It's in my blood.
Are you at least age 35?
I'm beyond 80. I'm beyond 35. I am ready. I am ready to run my campaign.
Yeah, so we know he was born in the United States. So we qualify him. You heard it here now first, folks. Mr. Sean running for president of the United States and in 2024, right?
I will have an acting role that will make me president one day.
So yeah, I mean that's one of the most interesting things. And then I really started digging into like who else was Sean, who else was Christopher connected to here, and I found just a menagerie of people here. You have Benedict Arnold, Don Knotts, Elvis Presley, Lucille Ball, Shirley Temple, Julia Child, Kyra Sedgwick, Tom Selleck, Isaac Newton, Judy Garland, Jonathan Swift, King Charles III himself, who is on the same page as you, is a cousin, Susan B. Anthony, Jimmy Stewart, and Harriet Tubman, your 21st cousin 5 times removed.
Wow. I'm related to Harriet Tubman?
Yeah, and that goes all the way back to an ancestor in the 1100s to make that connection. So she had some ancestry that led to that person. And also, really cool. I mentioned William Mullins is not necessarily a person that we think of as a notable, but he was a Mayflower passenger.
Wow.
As well as 10 other Mayflower passengers.
It's a great.
That's it. Just 11 people.
11 Mayflower passengers they are cousins to you. I didn't find a direct connection yet, like an ancestor yet, but there's a good chance that could be a thing too. And
Elvis Presley, huh? Wow.
And Elvis and his daughter, Lisa Marie. And while we're talking about Judy Garland, her daughter, Liza Minnelli, because these connections continue.
That's so interesting. I mean, with such amazing, gifted and people that have changed the world, I feel like I'm so far behind. I need to start picking it up.
Have you done a lot for the world already? I feel like, what you've brought to the table is amazing, and what you're continuing to bring to the table, is amazing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, I know we all feel imposter syndrome, right? We all feel like, why am I in this group, this collusion of people? Yeah, I mean, in this case, I mean, like, again, it points back to we're all kind of connected to one another. I just happen to choose the more notable people, but this doesn't count like the countless thousands of cousins that are not notable that are probably just as important for what they did.
I probably have a manager of McDonald's somewhere in that line.
Yeah, even the manager of McDonald's is an important role. I also wanted to point out, I also wanted to point out really quick that Don Knotts actually connected to you through a Dutch ancestor. So that was one of the Dutch ancestors that came into play. And that's where you have Dutch ancestry, is through the Opdykes and the Lorens. So Don Knotts also has that Dutch ancestry in addition to everything else that he has.
I mean, Tom Selleck, come on. Don Knotts, Tom Selleck.
Oh yeah.
Lucille Ball. I love
Lucille Ball, your ninth cousin 3 times removed.
Wow.
That's what all these codes mean. So anything with a C means cousin. Anything with an R means the removal, the distance offset from that.
I think it's interesting how
there's the Bridger at the top too.
The Shirley Temple and Julie Child connections are through the same common ancestor.
Yeah. Elizabeth Stoughton Chamberlain is the same common ancestor for both of those people.
And yeah, it's the same relation. They're both 9 cousins. 3 times
removed. Yeah, but you look at Lucille Ball, same distance, but Phoebe Brown Cornish is the one that give you that connection.
Amazing.
Well connected.
Very well connected here. I mean, it was amazing how fast we connected and how broad it connected after the connection was made. Because I don't have connections to all these people. Like I've looked up a lot of this. I think I finally found my connection to Lucille Ball. But I don't have connections to a lot of these other people.
Wow.
So we're just reiterating what we're saying here. This family is huge. I did a dynamic tree. I was just bored one night and I started clicking on every little relationship I could find going back to the beginning of time, which in our case is 2,000 years ago, because we only go to 0. We can't go into BC. So that's the way our system is formatted, is that it only allow us to go to 0. Kind of like the DeLorean. So when I expanded on them, it kept going. And because there were so many intermarriages, they overlapped and it kept pushing up and up. So they get higher and higher in this list. And I mean, this is deliberately unreadable because of how many people there are. I don't imagine, we're not going to zoom in on this because this is just the screen that I took as a screenshot. And to give you an idea of how far back you can actually go, assuming that the data is fairly accurate, and again, take it with a grain of salt, we could connect you to Charlemagne, and we could connect you as his 36th great grandson. So Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, who is considered the father of Europe, both figuratively and literally, because of how many people he connects to. This would be the supposed relationship between you and him.
So I'm I'm basically the ruler of Europe, is what you're saying.
Well, you may be descended from the ruler of Europe. But again, the relationships here, it's through the hunts. Predominantly the hunt line is the big one that's making these connections. Eventually they branched off to the Moors, the Doughties, the Gents, the Howells, the Houghtons, and the Crockers. And now we're getting into the French now, the Colinridges, the Arundels, de Varens, I can't even pronounce it. Apologies for chopping that up. And again, these are all French names now. And eventually we hit the Carolingians at the very bottom, the Carolingians, of which Charlemagne or Charles was. That would be the line that we have to follow to get to him. A lot of this, again, unknown confidence. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, should you choose to believe it.
I mean, you're choosing some amazing names. So, of course, I want to believe it. I want to believe it. But if you did choose some funny names, I'd be like, yeah, it's probably not me.
And there are some funny names out there, too. I connect to some very weird, strange names. But, I mean, this, again, it's just something that was interesting to find. you know, it was showing me that direct relationship. So I'm like, yeah, I might as well tell him about it, you know?
Wow. Charlemagne, huh? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But again, because of how far back it is, she did the calculation of, you know, how many grandparents would a person have if it was at 36?
How many, the question was,
Great
how many
grandparents.
36 great grandparents do you have? And it's something like 68, 69 million. You know,
Wow.
because of the exponential, you know, it doubles, keeps doubling.
So the chances that Charlemagne is one of those 68 or 69 million great grandparents times 20 or times 36 could be confident in that regard, just because of the numbers. But we don't have the relationship confidence on each individual relationship until we go through, you know, and actually confirm those. And I think DNA is the thing that would allow us to make those confidence changes. Because if you have a cousin, any cousin, doesn't have to be notable, if they share DNA with the wiki, and you know, you also had done it, for example, you would be able to see on a third-party site those relationships, and then that would attach to the WikiTree profiles. And once those were confirmed, you could actually check off and say confirm with DNA and go up as far as the chain as you need to until you hit that common ancestor that you share that DNA with. But the DNA doesn't go that far. You know, it only goes so far.
If you look at the painting of Charlemagne there,
Mm-hmm.
I think we share the same nose. That's really intriguing.
It's very intriguing. Yeah, you just need a little bit more of a beard, like mine. Well, wait, maybe
You know
I'm actually Charlemagne's 36 great grandson.
Oh my goodness, we're related.
I'm gonna turn my hat backwards. Does that help? Does it look like a mitre, or what is he wearing on his head there?
You look like an emperor of Rome right there. Look at you.
I'm on a ship. I am on a Imperial Star Destroyer here. This is my empire.
Oh my goodness.
And so as we're getting towards the close here, you can follow that line all the way to the beginning of the tree. As far as I'm aware, this is considered the earliest person that we have at year 60, Belly Ep Bran. I imagine that's some kind of Welsh name. I think a lot of this was in Welsh. And the Caradox, you know, you're looking at the Udos, like these are very ancient names, and this is very ancient genealogy that I cannot confirm, and potentially most other people may not be able to confirm, yet that'd be effectively a research scientist in this, an expert at this type of time frame. But you know, that's what it shows tentatively, you know, that we did go all the way to the beginning of the tree, and that was all connected to your line. Everything that we could find, there was no breaks in that.
That's amazing. And that's the person, Belly Ep Bran. He was actually the creator of Raisin Bran Crunch, which is really crazy.
What a guy. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much ends my little slideshow here. What did you think?
I'm like, wow, right? I think this is really cool. I think this is really, really fun, really cool. 12 cousins to Carrie Fisher, 26th cousin to Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, 3rd cousins to Hugh Hefner, 8th cousins to Barack Obama, sandbox fighting, revenge fighting, ancestral enemy to Stephen. That's, you know, this is really awesome. Betsy, you and I are probably related on the Asian side somewhere.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Be surprised. Yep. We'll have to be continued, to be discovered.
Right. More work will be done. And so what I'm going to do is, you know, after this is done, I'm going to email you, or I'm going to connect your email to your profile. So then you will actually get the invite to become a profile manager of your profile. So then you'll be able to see all the things that I see currently as your profile manager. You know, I can see the private relationships. You'll then be able to edit and manipulate those private relationships. I'll make sure that you're connected to all those people in question as a profile manager. Or on the trusted list. And then you can, you know, to your heart's content, if you want to continue to contribute on that in the future, by all means, you know, or if you want someone else to help you with it, we can work on those open profiles as well.
You know, what's funny is my father, his relationship with his parents was not the best. So I really didn't know too much about my grandparents. And my mother, her relationship, she left Japan at a very young age when she married my father and had a child that was Down syndrome. And being the oldest in the Japanese family, it's typically your job to take care of the parents and stay with the family and live there. So she kind of left that family. So she was always, she felt like she dishonored her family. So even though they were a part of my life, it was still very distant. So I've always felt like I was on this isolated little island of life. And to see this lineage that I come from, it really expands me and how I feel about my life. And I think it's oddly, it feels like my birthday in a weird way, because it's such a great gift to receive and to learn and to see. So I'm very thankful and appreciative to you and to AM1 and Betsy and the entire team at WikiTree for everything that you guys have done and put together here. And I'm really excited to see how far that these branches can reach.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you to say that. It isn't just a one person thing. Even though I was spearheading the effort to push this challenge through, there was a lot of people involved in this. There was Mindy, there was Thomas, there were various people in Germany project that helped with some of those lines. Lucy, she was one of those people that contributed. Margaret, I'm sure I'm forgetting other people. But we want this to be a collaborative experience. This whole idea behind wiki editing, even when my founding in Wikipedia, I've always been about the collaborative spirit. I can't do this all myself. There's going to be multiple people that are going to be helping with these projects, and that's just it. We're all connected and we're all working on it together equally. So I'm just
it makes
excited.
sense, like how you're in the bridge of your ship and it's not going anywhere because it's just you in there.
It's
if you
stuck
had a
in
team,
space.
you might be able to fly around, but
The hyperdrive failed.
No, this is awesome. And again, thank you. I wish I could say thank you to everyone by name.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I just a blanketed thank you. And yeah, you guys really touched my heart. So I really appreciate it.
And again, I thank you for being a part of this as well. It was an idea. And when I heard that you had such interesting background, it sort of sparked something in me. Like, I really want to see what I can find. And it just kind of went from there. And
yeah,
I
I'm excited to, I think it's, something about that is incredible. And your passion for this is it's amazing, man. Thank you for everything that you've done with Wikipedia, and thank you for this WikiTree. It's fun, man. And I can't wait to get that email link to reach out and find out, get a hold of my Japanese ancestry.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm going to be here all night, so we want to communicate. I will send those emails through. If there's anything else that you wanted to ask about, by all means, let me know, and we could talk about it. I don't know what your time is for tonight. We're pretty much done. We can end it here, but if you want to continue, if you have any more questions about it, we can certainly look into that for you.
I don't really have any. I mean, this is so overwhelming, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
So much information at once, and yet I'm trying to hold on like a sponge to as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've got Brock, I've got Luke, I've got Leia, I've got Hugh Hefner, Lucille Ball. The list goes on. Elvis Presley. It's really, really incredible to think that I've got such talent, and of course, there's every life matters, but at the same time, it's like, these people who have touched so many lives. That's kind of my goal in life, is to broaden the viewpoint on mixed Asian American multi-ethnics in the entertainment industry, and then provide opportunity for those who are interested in becoming actors, and utilize my platform to not only help special needs in public schools, but Asian Americans that are multi-ethnic that don't have role models in television, as well as help military, the veterans of the military. So, the larger platform that I have, the more opportunities I have to serve and give back. And it's nice to see that such successful people have come from my lineage and become those people that are positive shining lights into so many communities. And that's kind of my goal. So it's nice to think that they did it. I can do it too.
Yeah. I mean, you guys start somewhere. And so I really hope that this gave you at least, some identity clarification for you. I mean, a lot of people want to know where they came from, and this is just the beginning. Again, I know that we can do a lot more work from here, and I'm really excited to continue working with you on this.
I'm excited. I'm ready to dive cannonball into the deep end with you. So you let me know what you need from me, and I'll get it taken care of. And thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Stephen, for your time. This is fun, awesome, overwhelming.
All right, great. Well, yeah, then I'll let you mull on that. Then we'll go ahead and close it out. You have a lot to think about, and I'll just share that information with you here shortly. Okay.
Right,
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure, Christopher.
Thank you, Betsy. Nice to meet you and nice to work with you.
Thanks.
Thanks again for joining us, Chris. All right, you have a great night then.
All right.
You guys have a great night. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.